Throughout his long career, Ozzy Osbourne has epitomized the phrase shock rocker. His often drug-fueled escapades and wild road stories are the stuff of rock and roll legend. Here are some of the craziest stunts Ozzy Osbourne ever pulled. Ozzy Osbourne was in the midst of his Diary of a Madman tour on January 20th, 1982, when he appeared on stage in Des Moines, Iowa, at the Veterans Memorial Auditorium. It was a day that would go down as one of the most infamous in rock and roll history. Prior to the show, he appeared on a handbill wearing a cape and devil horns. Emblazoned across the top of the advertisement were the words, "Just when you thought it was safe to go back to a concert." Parental guidance was recommended, and concertgoers were urged not to eat before attending. Little did anyone know what was about to transpire that fateful night. 17-year-old Mark Neal smuggled a dead bat into the show with every intention of throwing it on stage, and after he did, Osbourne bit the creature's head off.
It wasn't Batman, it was like a bat, a real bat, yeah.
The singer later checked into a local hospital for rabies shots. Decades later, Osbourne continued to field questions about the incident, with people frequently asking why he did it and how it tasted.
Somebody threw a bat on stage, and I thought it was one of these toy bats. So I picked it up, bite the thing's head off, and suddenly everybody's freaking out because it's a real bat.
During an early 2000s interview with Rolling Stone, Ozzy Osbourne and Black Sabbath guitarist Tony Iommi opened up about ingesting copious amounts of cocaine while making the album Volume 4 in Los Angeles. The band stayed at a house in Bel Air, and their recording sessions were bookended by alcohol, drugs, and women. At one point, Ozzy Osbourne managed to accidentally call the cops and proceeded to flush a bunch of drugs down the toilet. But that wasn't the worst of their indiscretions. At one point, Osbourne and drummer Bill Ward were urinating in the bathroom together when the singer grabbed an aerosol can and sprayed the contents onto Ward's private parts. Only afterward did Osbourne notice the labeling, "Warning, do not spray on skin, highly toxic." In the same interview, Osbourne told the magazine that he, quote, "poisoned Ward in his most sensitive of areas." Ozzy Osbourne enjoyed putting on a show when he performed for audiences in the 1980s. Concertgoer Steve Newton detailed a June 10, 1982 performance in the Canadian newspaper The Georgia Straight, based in Vancouver, about a week after the concert. Osbourne appeared on stage sitting on a throne. The singer's voice was not up to par that night, and he wasn't as energetic in person as he was on his latest album. However, his showmanship didn't disappoint. The stage was set up like a castle, and at one point, a little person dubbed Little John, who was wearing a black robe with a ghoulish face, was tasked with removing the debris teens regularly threw onto the stage. Newton noted that it appeared like a dead bat was part of the debris, so Little John picked up the creature before Ozzy could. Newton went on to note that Little John looked, quote, "a little hesitant and unsure while he did it." Not long afterward, a hooded executioner performed a mock hanging of Little John, while Osbourne belted out the lyrics to "Goodbye to Romance" from Blizzard of Oz. Random. Most fans know about the time Ozzy Osbourne tried to kill his wife Sharon. He shared details about the incident in the documentary biography, The 9 Lives of Ozzy Osbourne. Osbourne said of that fateful day in 1989, "I felt the calmest I've ever felt in my life. It was like serenity. Everything was just peaceful." Sharon wasn't exactly shocked by his actions, saying in the same documentary, "We'd had a couple of fights and you can tell it was building to something. You could just feel it. I just knew it was coming." Osbourne was heavily using drugs when he visited Sharon in their bedroom one night after she put their children to bed.
Suddenly, he just said, "We've made a decision," and I'm like, "We've?" "Yes, and you've got to die."
Osbourne then lunged at Sharon and started choking her. The oddest thing about the incident was that he appeared perfectly calm. Fortunately, Sharon was able to reach the panic button the couple had installed near their bedside table, which alerted the police. When Ozzy later woke up in jail, he didn't know why he was there. Sharon dropped all charges against her husband, and Osbourne spent 6 months in a treatment facility. If you or someone you know is struggling with domestic abuse, please call or chat online with the National Domestic Violence Hotline at 1-800-799-7233. Rock guitarist Zakk Wylde was warned about Ozzy Osbourne's erratic behavior before he joined him on tour. Wylde told the website Birmingham Live, "People used to say he's trying to trap you in his web. Don't let him trap you in his web." In 2002, the pair started drinking on the tour bus, and it turned into a night-long bender that nearly cost a man his life. The two were staying at the Four Seasons in Prague when Osbourne was suddenly inspired to throw a TV out of the window. So he tore it off the wall, and Wylde heaved it right out the window. Osbourne later recalled of the incident. "It landed on the floor and exploded. It went like a bomb. Little did I know that there was a guy smoking. And I shudder to think if that had hit him, I would have killed him stone dead." The incident caused tens of thousands of dollars worth of damage because they broke the window frame during the process. Osbourne footed the bill. On February 19, 1982, Ozzy Osbourne, as usual, had consumed a few too many drinks before committing one of rock and roll's most infamous transgressions. He was wearing his future wife Sharon's dress when he decided to explore San Antonio, Texas, just for the heck of it. Sharon had hidden Ozzy's clothing to keep him from wandering away, but obviously that didn't work. Across the street from the Alamo building, Osbourne relieved himself on the 60-foot Alamo cenotaph, which honors the dead. The singer was arrested and later released on a $40 bond. That night, he performed at the city's convention center, but he was later banned from playing in San Antonio until 1992.
Yeah, it took me like 15 years to be able to do a show there.
He publicly apologized for the incident and donated $10,000 to the group that takes care of the Alamo property. Ozzy said at the time, "I am deeply honored that the people of San Antonio have found it in their hearts to have me back. I hope that this donation will show that I have grown up." On March 27, 1981, Ozzy Osbourne attended Epic Records' annual sales convention at the suggestion of his manager and future wife Sharon Arden. Osbourne was scheduled to talk about the U.S. release of Blizzard of Oz. The plan was for 3 doves to be released after he finished to impress the executives at the event. Unfortunately, Osbourne was a little drunk on brandy and bored with the presentation, so he took matters into his own hands. As recalled by the singer in Mick Wall's Black Sabbath biography, Symptom of the Universe, Osbourne noted that a PR woman was giving a long-winded speech about his music. When she was finished, Osbourne went up to the woman and asked her if she liked animals. In retelling the story to Wall, Osbourne went on to add, "Then I pulled out one of these doves and bit its head off, just to shut her up. Then I did it again with the next dove, spitting the head out on the table, and the woman fell on the floor screaming." Osbourne was thrown out of the event, but his continued legacy of animal cruelty turned out to be a boon for his career. Blizzard of Oz ended up selling millions of copies, and he cemented his reputation as one of heavy metal's most notorious rock stars. Ozzy Osbourne is famous for his drug and alcohol-fueled benders, which went on for decades. In 1978, Van Halen served as the opening act for Black Sabbath and featured frontman David Lee Roth, who also liked to party. Roth ended up participating in what could have been a deadly game with Osbourne. Author Greg Renoff revealed the details in the 2015 book Van Halen Rising, how a Southern California backyard party band saved heavy metal. At the time, Black Sabbath as a whole was spiraling out of control due to drug use, and Van Halen was riding high on its first world tour. Roth and Osbourne ended their performance in Birmingham, Alabama by snorting cocaine. They then challenged each other to see who could do the most coke without dying. The pair snorted copious amounts throughout the night while the tour buses headed to Nashville for the next show. When they arrived in Tennessee, Osbourne never received the key to his hotel room and simply disappeared. The police were alerted, and there were fears that he had either been kidnapped or killed. Ozzy's manager asked Roth if he could fill in for him at the concert, but Roth didn't know the songs. The concert was canceled, and about 24 hours later, Osbourne showed up in the hotel lobby. He had spent the time sleeping in a random room that was being cleaned by a housekeeper. If you or someone you know is struggling with addiction, please call the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Administration's 24/7 national helpline at 1-800-662-HELP. That's 1-800-662-4357. In his book Iron Man, My Journey, Through Heaven and Hell with Black Sabbath, guitarist Tony Iommi opened up about life in the band and some of the crazy things that happened when they were recording and touring together. Ozzy Osbourne was known for his heavy drinking and drugging, which led to some insane antics. At one point, even drugs weren't doing enough for Osbourne, so he had to find other ways to get a rise out of his bandmates. Iommi explained, "With drugs always you get bored, so you must do something to one another." Like Ozzy hauling a shark through a window, dismembering it and soaking our room in blood. Another animal slaughtered for fun. But at least there's some good news. Iommi and Osbourne were both eventually able to get sober. During a 2020 interview with GQ, Ozzy Osbourne admitted he inadvertently drugged a vicar from the local church. They commonly visit your home when you move into town to welcome you to the neighborhood. Prior to his visit, Osbourne had made a cake with a, quote, big hunk of hash, and he told his wife at the time, Thelma Riley, that it was off limits. A few days later, Osbourne returned from a trip to the local pub and saw a vicar in his home drinking tea and eating a piece of the cake. Osbourne didn't have a driver's license, but when the man passed out, he dragged him into his car by his hair and drove him home. Osbourne later recalled, "I didn't see him for 2 weeks after that and I thought I'd killed him." Osbourne finally saw him at the pub on a Sunday morning. The vicar revealed he had flu-like symptoms and hallucinated for several days, causing him to miss church services. Now in his 70s, Ozzy Osbourne is dealing with a lot of health issues. He had spinal surgery in 2019 that has resulted in chronic pain. In 2020, he revealed that he has Parkinson's disease. Osbourne also has emphysema, which makes him particularly vulnerable if he catches COVID-19. Since he doesn't like wearing a mask, he doesn't leave his house very often, but that hasn't stopped him from making big plans for the future. Osbourne is rescheduling his No More Tours 2 tour in the UK and Europe. The tour was announced in 2018 but was postponed several times due to his health issues. It was set to resume in 2020, and COVID-19 hit. His wife Sharon told Planet Radio, "The British tour, he'll be back in 22. You know, we just carry on as normal. We've been doing loads of TV shows here, and you've got to just keep going until Ozzy can go back live." Check out one of our newest videos right here. Plus, even more grunge videos about your favorite stuff are coming soon. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit the bell so you don't miss a single one.